In case you haven't heard about this year's income tax returns and all the fuss around it, let me break it down for you. Hi everyone, my name is Lisbeth and I make videos that help you plan for a better financial future while living your best life today. In today's video, I'm going to give you the rundown on some of the biggest changes that were made that are going to affect you in this year's tax refunds, or filing your taxes in general if you haven't had a refund before. Now, from what I've heard, the actual tax reform law is about 500 pages long. So these are definitely not all the changes that happened, but this is just kind of some of the highlights that I saw that I think would be the most impactful for the most amount of people. And I wanted to make sure to share them with you before you actually start your taxes. So if you're new to filing taxes this year, or you need a quick rundown of all the new changes coming your way, then stick around. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you give this video a big thumbs up if you like these kinds of videos, and leave me a comment down below if you plan on filing your taxes ASAP or if you're closer to that April 15th deadline. First things first, the first day that the IRS will start processing tax returns is Monday, January 28th. This doesn't mean that you can't file your tax return before if you have all the necessary documents that you need, but just keep in mind that if you file, for example, tomorrow, they won't actually start processing your return until January 28th. Second, there's been a lot of fuss around the government shutdown and what that will do with income tax returns. Not to worry, they have said that they will still issue tax refunds like normal. When it comes to filing your actual taxes, I know that a lot of people are used to going to an actual person, a tax preparer of some sort, to do your taxes for you. Or if this is your first time, you've most likely had your parents go to someone to do their taxes, but you don't have to. The only time I recommend people to actually see a tax professional is if their taxes are going to be all kinds of crazy. And by crazy, I mean you have businesses or a business, you get some type of money from outside sources, multiple outside sources, maybe you're in investing or a combination of those things. That's when they get a little bit more complicated. That's when you have to look at more deductions for you. And that's when I recommend you to go and hire someone to help you with your taxes. However, in most cases, for most adults, either single or married, the best option is actually to do an online tax website. So consider these options. There's, of course, the very well-known TurboTax, which is really easy to follow, and that's who I've used the last few years when filing my taxes. It is super simple to walk through. It literally walks you through every single possible deduction and things that could possibly help or hurt your income tax return. So if you're looking for it to be your first time, then I would recommend TurboTax because of the simplicity of it all, and it really helps you better understand how taxes work. Now, if you've done it yourself before and you're looking for something a little bit cheaper, then H&R Block is definitely another good option. Their software is pretty similar as TurboTax, and their prices are slightly cheaper. Their free option also includes a lot more people than TurboTax's free option. But their basic tax return is $29.99 compared to TurboTax's $39.99. And these are just for federal returns, not state returns. That's an additional fee. Now, for those who have done their own tax returns a few years now and are pretty familiar with the process, if you don't want to pay the prices for either TurboTax or H&R Block, then I just came across this new software, or actually it's not new, it's been around for a long time, but a software that is pretty competitive to both TurboTax and H&R Block. Maybe not as simple looking as they are, but it's only $17. Yep, you heard me right, $17. I think is a pretty great deal. And to top it all off, I came across an Ebates offer for $10 back. So technically you'd be filing your taxes for $7, which is crazy. Now, if you haven't heard of Ebates, it's a cashback site that you go to first, and then it takes you to whatever website you want to go to and normally gives you a percentage back. In this case, it's a specific amount back. And you just pretty much accumulate it, and every quarter or so, they send you a check or deposit it into a PayPal account of cashback that you've earned from doing online shopping. I've had Ebates for a very, very long time, and I swear by it. I tell everyone I know about it, hence why I'm telling you. So if you want to check it out or sign up, I will leave my referral link down below for you. I do get something back from it, but so do you. You get $10 after your first purchase of over $25 in whatever online store you want to go to. So if you were to, for example, use H&R Block, they charge you $29.99. You qualify for 9% cash back through Ebates, and you'll get the $10 for having my referral link. So that comes out to a pretty good price for H&R Block. I haven't seen any rebates through Ebates for TurboTax, but they normally do at one point or another come up with one. The point is that you don't pay full price for any of these regardless. Now to talk about actually filing your taxes. A couple of terms that you should know the difference between are tax credits and tax deductions. A tax credit has to do with the overall amount of money that you owe the IRS versus a tax deduction, which is a deduction on the income that will be taxed by the IRS. So for example, a tax credit, if you owe the government, say $5,000, it will deduct that amount that you owe them directly. Versus a tax deduction, if your income is $100,000, then whatever the deduction is will be deducted from your $100,000 income, which could put you in a lower tax bracket, saving you money. Along those lines, an itemized deduction versus a standard deduction. One of the biggest changes this year was the change in the standard deduction. The standard deduction was almost doubled than it was the previous years, but they also got rid of the personal deduction. However, the standard deduction is still greater than the standard deduction from last year and the personal deduction combined, pretty much saying that you're getting a higher deduction than you did the previous years. This is a big game changer when it comes to those who preferred an itemized deduction. They're saying that with the new changes, more than half of the people who used to itemize should now use the standard deduction because they will have a bigger benefit from it. So if you've itemized previously, then you might want to look at the numbers again and see if possibly this time around a standard deduction is better for you and your family. I want to point out some of the biggest changes when it comes to itemized deductions, which could be the biggest difference in deciding if itemized deductions or the standard deduction is best for you. One, if you moved more than 50 miles away because of a job, you no longer get that as a deduction. Home equity loan interest is no longer deductible. Alimony. Before, if you were the person who paid alimony, you could deduct that from your income, and the person who received the alimony would add that as income for themselves. That is no longer the case. Neither or is allowed anymore. A couple of things that weren't eliminated but were reduced. One being state and local taxes. They used to be deductible in their entirety. Now they are capped at $10,000. Same goes for mortgage interest. Mortgage interest used to be capped at the interest that you paid on up to $1 million home loan, both for primary and secondary residences together. But now that total is capped at $750,000. Another major change were the tax brackets. There are still 7 tax brackets, but if your income stayed pretty much the same compared to last year's, you might actually be in a different tax bracket, a lower tax bracket. I will insert a picture somewhere around here comparing last year's tax brackets to this year's, just to kind of give you an idea of where you stand. The child tax credit is also one of the biggest differences between last year's taxes and this year's taxes. In prior years, the tax credit was only $1,000 per child. This year, however, it is $2,000. And also, in order for you to be eligible for it, you have to make under a certain amount of money before the amount that you get back starts phasing out. This amount has also been increased, which will allow for a lot more people to receive this child tax credit. And remember that $2,000 goes towards the amount of money that you owe the IRS. It is not a deduction on your income. Now, one last big difference in these new tax laws is the 529 savings plan. It used to be that you could only deduct the amount you took out for higher education purposes. So if your child was going to college and you took that money out of the 529 plan, you could use that as a deduction. But now with more private schools coming up for K through 12, they have now allowed for $10,000 of tuition to be deducted if you were to take it out of a 529 plan. And that is per beneficiary per year. That means if you have 2 children in a private school and you pay tuition for their schooling, you are allowed to take up to $20,000 from a 529 plan and use that as a deduction. All right, so that's it. that's my rundown on the new tax laws and how they will affect your 2019 income tax. If there are any tidbits or big things that I missed, please leave them in the comments below for everyone and for myself as well. I do plan on filing my taxes as soon as January 28th, as long as I have all the papers that I need. I just like getting it out of the way so I have the most time to prepare for either the money that's coming in, or if in case, which I kind of doubt because I have a child, money that I have to pay. I think it's better for me to know now and have that time between now and April 15th to take care of it. Make sure you give this video a big thumbs up if you found it helpful. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And if you would like any additional tips or inspiration, you can find me on Instagram, and I also have a Facebook group for you. Whichever you prefer, or both, that works as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I wish you the biggest tax breaks possible. Bye, guys.